Peace and blessings, everybody. Hey, you know who it is, Pastor Troy Wynn, Senior, the Senior Pastor of the Freedom Church. And listen, I want to say something to women today. You guys know I've been married for 36 years, and in a few months, December the 19th, my wife and I will celebrate 37 years of marriage. Counting the 2 years we've been together, that would be 39 years. And I want to speak to women who are married because oftentimes trying to understand your husband can be one of the greatest challenges that a wife may face. I will tell you this, one of the things that men have in common is that we love to be acknowledged. We love to be appreciated. We love to be applauded. And I know there's some women who are saying, well, so do we. Ladies, let's let this be about men for a minute. I want to help women who are married because in this world that we're living in, men have a lot of distractions. Men have a lot of temptations, not to mention the pressures that come with being a man, especially a man who's married. One of the things women have to be mindful of is that God has given you a gift. And I tell you, it is a gift that I don't think many women understand how powerful it is, how precious it is, and how valuable it is, especially to your husband. And that gift is the gift of appreciation. Now, we all want to be appreciated, and sometimes I think we get into this tug of war of wanting to be appreciated, and then we hold back our appreciation because we don't feel like we're being appreciated. But those of you that are married, those of you that are women, I want to encourage you to take a good look at your husband. And I want to encourage you every day to take a good look at him and find something to appreciate about him. And when I say find something to appreciate about him, I literally mean find something to say to him, I appreciate this about you. Find something to say thank you to him for. And it may seem minuscule to you, but I promise you, a thank you a day will keep the lawyer away. What do you mean by that, Pastor Troy? Men need to be thanked. Oftentimes, especially if you're a husband, the things that a husband does sometimes goes without recognition, goes without applause. Oftentimes, it feels like it goes without being noticed. As men who are married, we look to our wives to be the force of appreciation that we can count on. We look to our wives to be the source of gratitude that we can lean on. Here's the dichotomy for most husbands. We don't feel comfortable asking for it. We don't feel comfortable even having this conversation with you. And most men do not feel comfortable even admitting that what I am saying is true. But sisters, trust me. Wives, trust me, I wouldn't steer you wrong. That husband of yours needs to be acknowledged by you. He needs to be seen by you. He needs to be heard by you. And he needs to be appreciated by you on a daily basis. He needs to hear you say, I love you. I appreciate you. I thank God for you. Beyond that, he needs to know that you are saying this to other people as well. He needs to know that you are shouting from the rooftops that your husband is appreciated, that your husband is a provider, that your husband is kind, that your husband is patient. He needs to hear you say this to others. Here's why. Because when he doesn't hear you say it to others, and he doesn't hear you say it to himself, it gives the enemy a door, a window, a crack to try to manipulate in his mind, to make him feel worthless, to make him feel unappreciated. And oftentimes it is one of the reasons or the catalyst to infidelity. I think about the story I read many, many years ago of a young boy who, when he was growing up, his mother was the apple of his eye. And he would often walk by his mom and say, hey, Mom, look at my muscles. I'm growing. And mom would say, ooh, you're so strong. Ooh, you're just the strongest little boy in the whole wide world. And he would just skip after hearing that from his mother. And as he got older, he continued to look to mom for that confirmation and that affirmation. Hey, mom, look at my muscles. Aren't I strong? Look how far I can throw the ball. Watch me catch this football. Mom, watch me run. See how fast I can run. Zoom, zip, zoom. And mom would say, woo, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. You're fast, you're strong, you're amazing, son. And he would skip away or have a pep in his step. And this goes on throughout the boy's life until he becomes a teenager, until he becomes a young man, until he moves out into the world. And he begins to subconsciously, oftentimes unconsciously, search for someone to continue the accolades, to continue the recognition, to continue the affirmation that he is strong, that he is fast, that he is able to catch and run and do things better than others. And he looks for that in his mate. He looks for that in the woman that he will call his wife. And oftentimes men get that in the beginning stages of the marriage. They get that when everything is smooth, but when time settles in and tests and trials come through the marriage, oftentimes that accolade, that recognition becomes fewer and fewer. It becomes more silent. It becomes invisible and non-existent. And if you think it's not impacting your husband, sisters, I want to tell you, it is. One of the issues with men is that we suffer silently. Most women will tell you that it's hard to get a man to open up. It's hard to get a man to tell you how he feels. It's hard to get a man to express himself. And for many men, they have valid reasons for doing so. It is because they don't feel like they have a safe place and a safe space to let down their masculine guard, a safe space and a safe place to really express themselves emotionally and tell you really how they feel, what they're struggling with, what they're concerned with, because most men have this horrible fear that in those moments of vulnerability, in those moments of brutal transparency, that when trouble visits the marriage again, when tests attack the relationship, when there is an argument or a disagreement, that moment of vulnerability will be used against him. And I have seen it happen in other relationships. I've seen it happen in marriages. And I want to encourage wives to understand one of the greatest gifts you can give your husband, besides affirmation, recognition, and compliments that you say to him and you say to others, one of the greatest gifts you can give your husband is a safe place. A safe place to be vulnerable, a safe place to let his guard down, a safe place to express his feelings without penalty at a later date. Not only without penalty, but without reduction of masculinity. What does that mean? He's able to tell you how he feels. He's able to let his guard down. He's able to relax and be open and honest and transparent in your presence without you looking at him as if he is less than a man because he may have some issues in his tissues. He may have some concerns that make him weary. He may have some weaknesses that cause him to appear to be fragile. But he knows that he can safely express, reveal, and convey the weak areas in his life, the challenges in his life, the concerns in his life, without being seen as less than. It is the greatest reward a wife can give a husband. I felt compelled today just to share with wives, to encourage you to take a look at your husband. And if you're not encouraging him on a daily basis, to remind yourself to do so. And don't let it be mechanical or methodical. Let it be heartfelt. The Bible says that we should do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And oftentimes when I bring up these subjects, there's some women who come to the defense and say, well, you know, he doesn't compliment me. He doesn't do this for me. He doesn't blah, 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 blah. And I get it and I hear it, but this is not the time or the place for that. The Bible tells us to do unto others as we would want them to do to us. It doesn't say do unto others if they do to us as we would have them do. And oftentimes I think marriages do fail because somebody's waiting on somebody to do what we want somebody to do, when sometimes you got to trust God, sow the seed, and do the deed, and just have faith that the Lord of the harvest, which is God, will let that thing come back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. So today I'm challenging wives to take a look at your husband, find something good to say to him and about him, and mean it. Be sincere and be appreciative and grateful for all that he is and all that he does, in spite of all that he may not do, in spite of all that he may not be. Be wise enough to be a wife who knows how to look and see the good that is, and to embellish it, to applaud it, to appreciate it, and watch the difference that it makes in his spirit and in his psyche. Well, hey, this is Pastor Troy Wynn Sr. Just a word of encouragement and wisdom for women who are married. Wives, your husbands need you.